Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy, and if you're clicking on this video, you're interested in finding out about my experience with the University of Arizona Global Campus in general, and also with the Master of Human Resource Management. This video is going to be kind of lengthy because I take you through my thought process with deciding about this school, some things that I think you should know up front, some pros, some cons, some good experiences, some bad experiences, what I walked away with, and a high-level overview of the courses that I went through. Again, the video is a little bit long. You'll see me looking down at my notes and then looking back up just to make sure that I am telling you everything that I feel that you need to know to make an informed decision about if this university is a right fit for you, and more specifically, if the Master of Human Resource Management program is a right fit for your end goal. Alright, so I'll start off with some general information about the program and then also the reason why I chose this particular program over other opportunities. So the program is 39 credit hours, one class at a time, 6 weeks each class, with no breaks aside from holidays and Christmas break. I think the longest break that I had was Christmas break, and because I made some modifications to my schedule, I had a little bit more time, but other than that, it would probably have been a week, maybe 2 at the most. So consider that you'll be going back to back to back to back to back each class, no break until you are done, minus 1 day holiday or maybe even a break for Christmas. I think there was a spring break, but I honestly can't remember. For your workload, usually you're going to read a couple chapters, 1 or 2. Remember, this is the graduate level. And then you have 2 discussion boards and 2 responses to each discussion board, and then an assignment every week. So read a couple of chapters, do 2 discussion boards, which usually have a minimum requirement. Each of those 2 discussion boards, sometimes 3, you have to respond 2 times, sometimes with a minimum amount of words and sometimes without, sometimes with scholarly articles, sometimes without, and then again a weekly assignment at the end. You'll have a major assignment in your week 6 class, which will make up the bulk of your points, so make sure that you dedicate a lot of time to that last class. Tuition wise, I use the full tuition corporation grant. I think that's what it's called. So basically my employer has tuition assistance, I think like $52.50 per calendar year, and I submit for courses pre-approved for my company to pay for it or my employer to pay for it, and then the remaining balance of the tuition is then paid for by the grant through the University of Arizona Global Campus. And that's one of the reasons why I chose the program. And then also my end goal was or is to get into HR, human resources, and then because this program aligns so closely with SHRM, which is like a gold standard for HR, I felt comfortable with this program. The school used to be known as the University of Arizona the school used to be known as Ashford University, but it was acquired by University of Arizona, which is an institution in Arizona, clearly. The University of Arizona Global Campus is affiliated with the University of Arizona, 2 separate institutions. The University of Arizona has online offerings, which are separate from the University of Arizona Global Campus. There are other schools or institutions that do this, like Purdue University. They have a global campus. I believe Penn State has a global campus, and there's a school in Maryland that has a global campus, so it's not unfamiliar. When I first heard about that, I was interested in how it would affect the program, but I personally saw nothing different in how my program was run. Some things to consider when choosing this program and this university is when you walk across the stage, what do you want to be true? And does the program that you'll be going into, the bachelor's of whatever, the associates of whatever, the master's of whatever, the doctor of whatever, will that help you with your end goal? Not only does it align with your end goal, but if your end goal requires a governing body to approve you or license you for something, does the program in general, does the school in general align with that? For example, I'm just randomly throwing this out there. If you know that you want to be a certified public accountant, does the undergraduate degree, does the graduate degree align with the CPA exam, and does it set you up for a licensure? The same with maybe psychology programs. If you plan on going to another school after this school, will this school accept the credits that you receive from the University of Arizona Global Campus? Are you committed to online school? Because online school is not for everybody. And does school name or prestige or the rigor of the program mean anything to you? If it does, then you should consider that and shop around. Does a personal touch mean something to you? So your professors, how personable are they? Are they connected? Do they know you by name? Are they proactively reaching out to you? Or are they just processing you like a student or a number, right? That happens at any university, but with this being an online school, more so than not. And then does a school culture where networking and opportunities, et cetera, mean something to you? So there's no right or wrong answer. It's all about you and what your end goal is. But those are just some things that I would consider when choosing the University of Arizona Global Campus, and even the program that you're looking at, in my case, the Master of Human Resource Management program. All right, so I'm going to get into the pros and cons, but I do want to circle back to the fact that the University of Arizona Global Campus is regionally accredited, which is good, by the Council of Higher Education Accreditation. It's within, I think it's on the west side, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, there are regions, but with the school being on the West Coast, the West Association for something has approved this school, so that's a good thing. Another thing I'll emphasize on, more specific to the school being acquired by the University of Arizona, if I am a reputable school, which the University of Arizona is, I would not want to taint and or put a blemish on my reputation by acquiring something that I did not have full commitment to improve. And you can take that for what you want it to be, but I see the University of Arizona acquiring what was known as Ashford University as a good thing, knowing that there will be people watching the transaction and making sure that poor practices that may have been seen at Ashford University no longer take place, and that the quality of the education remains intact. So let's talk about the pros, which I'll probably run through really quickly because I don't want the video to be super long. So this school has a very clear process and procedure, and it's run like a business. So you'll know exactly what to expect, when to expect it, because it's run like a well-oiled machine. One class at a time, and you'll have full access to all the assignments at once. I could work ahead if I wanted to. Resources such as Grammarly and Paper Tutor are free. Grammarly just makes sure that it's like an editor that you can put your papers through, and then the Paper Tutor is basically someone who reads your papers and gives you feedback. which is something that you should use all the time, those two resources. The ease of use of the student portal, including the ability to submit and respond to discussion boards, submit assignments, send emails, see degree progress, and more, especially Audible books. So basically, when you're logged into your student portal, you have access to everything. So there's no need for you to log into multiple systems or whatever. It's auto signing you into everything. The security enhancement of the text message is kind of annoying, but I understand why, because there was no requirement to change your password for like a year or so. So having that extra security measure has been reassuring. Some of the professors do go above and beyond and are super flexible. I would consider this degree in this institution to be working adult friendly. And as I alluded to earlier, the association with the University of Arizona, which is ranked well in certain categories, is great. The admissions process was super easy, and for the most part, people were friendly. So those are all of the pros. The cons, I would say, is because the school is run like a business, you can turn into a little robot and not soak in the material. So because I knew to expect 2 discussion boards every week and an assignment, it's like I was kind of just going through the motions without really soaking it in. And in some cases, there might be a class where the assignment is due on a different day than the other, and you might miss a deadline. So just be careful of that. Some of the professors seemed like they were burnt out or don't care. And that was just because in one instance, I emailed the professor several times and I never got a response until I got my academic advisor involved because I needed direction. That was only one time, so that could happen at any institution, but with it being an online school, it just stuck out a little bit more because you can't necessarily go knock on your professor's door. I'm gonna list this as a con, but again, it depends on your end goal. Prestige or transfer worthiness. I've read in some cases online where students have tried to go to like different students or different schools and their credits weren't accepted. I don't know the full details behind that. And again, this school is accredited, regionally accredited, which is great. So I don't know if maybe just something wasn't clear, or what the school they went to was, or if the classes that they took were relevant to the degree that they were trying to get into. I don't know the full story behind that, but just wanted to throw it out there. And then prestige. This is not an Ivy League school. This is not a school that is known for STEM or whatever it might be. This is a school that's specific to working adults. And if you apply yourself, then you're going to be fine. You're going to come out being able to speak knowledge or speak to certain things or circumstances or whatever your degree helps you to, and be fine in whatever your role is. But again, just want to throw it out there. For me, some of the material wasn't challenging, and sometimes responding to people can be a bit boring. And again, that goes back to being run like a business. Sometimes you respond to the same people over and over and over again. I try to pick random people each week, but sometimes you don't get something out of discussion boards if not everybody is taking it seriously. But again, I guess that could be applied to any university. And then I'll go back to talking about Ashford University. I personally haven't had any issues. Again, I use the tuition grant through my employer. But if you Google Ashford University, there are some horror stories, just being honest. But I personally have not seen anything or experienced anything that made me want to withdraw completely from the school. So think that's it. Yeah. Alright, so just some random things that I wanted to mention. My best experience was a professor who gave me a C on an assignment and challenged me. So one thing that I'll say is I had a graduate degree prior to getting into this program, so I was somewhat familiar with I guess school at the graduate level. So I was on cruise control and wasn't really being as challenged as I thought I would be. But again, I had already built up that muscle. I hope that made sense. So when the professor was like, "Nope, you didn't do what you're supposed to do," I was like, "Whoa, okay, well, let me go back to being on point, or being more engaged, I should say." And I appreciated that. I appreciated them actually reading my paper, looking at the rubric and saying, "No, you didn't hit this all the way." And it challenged me and forced me to step up my game in a good way. My worst experience was a professor that saw I made a mistake and still was not flexible. And that happened one time. So I have a Mac computer and then I have a MacBook. I started my assignment, which was the final assignment, mind you. Started my final assignment on my Mac, then I went to my MacBook and finished it. When I went back to my Mac, I submitted the draft that I had started before going to my MacBook instead of my final copy that was on my MacBook. Clearly it was a mistake. The professor saw that I had the outline for the entire paper, but the professor said, which it's in the guidelines, so I don't fault them for it, but whatever you turn in is whatever you turn in. Now, I was a student that was always turning in my assignments early, always doing discussion board responses more than required with scholarly articles, and more than the word requirement. So I'm thinking, as a professor, if I saw that a student who's typically turning in everything early and doing a really good job made a mistake like that, I would be flexible and say, just resubmit it. But no, they stuck to it. And I ended up doing an appeal, which was favorable to me because it was a genuine mistake. I showed them that I saved my final copy before the deadline, but I just submitted my draft. So that was the worst experience. Given that I put my best foot forward 85 to 90% of the time, I feel like I walked away with my end goal accomplished, which was getting HR experience, or through an academic lens, getting enough HR information to get into an HR role. Although I'm not in an HR role now, I can look at the circumstances that I'm going through with an HR lens and say, okay, how would I approach this as an HR professional based off of the information that I just was going through in my program? And it's really helped to make me a little bit more sharp in comparison to maybe peers that are doing the same job, because I'm considering the operational aspect of it and the employee experience at the same time. So that's pretty cool. Would I go to this school again for another master's? Yes, because I know what to expect. Would I go to this school for a doctor or a doctoral degree? No, but that's again based on my end goal. At the doctorate level, I'm looking for a smaller school where I can send an email to my professor and they know who I am, and I can have a relationship. We can sit on Zoom or Teams or whatever the medium is and have a conversation for an hour long. They know my writing. They've seen me in other programs or other classes before. I just want that more personal touch. Not saying that it's not possible at this school, but I just prefer, based on my experience with another school, to stick with what was a little bit more comfortable, that more small, homely feeling, where I can literally reach out to touch my professor and engage with them. Can you do this program with which is full-time, working full-time and with a family. As somebody who's single with no kids and no pets, I mean, it's hard for me to answer, but based on me reading the introductions of other students, I would say that it's possible and people did it. And although it was tiring, which any program would be, I didn't see where, unless it was obvious that the person had a lot going on, that they weren't able to keep up with the material. So I think it would be possible for anybody who's working full-time, who has a family, who is married, or has a social life, to go through this program without an issue. All right, so as I stated at the beginning, there were 39 credit hours that are in this program, which translates to 13 classes at 3 credits each. So 3 times 13. The only class that I did not take was organizational development because I transferred that course in from a different school. I'm not going to go through all of the courses because I think that would make the video too long, but I'll just highlight some of the courses, or if I can get through all of the courses, just give a really brief description. So management communication with technology, basically how do you communicate in an organizational setting and what are the different ways to communicate and tools to communicate. Human resource management was a general HR course which covered the broad scope of what HR handles. Literally, you talk about one function of HR in each of the 6 weeks and then you put it all together. Business ethics and social responsibility, which was actually, I think, one of my least favorite classes. Are people doing what they say that they're doing? And when they don't, how does that translate into laws that are put in place? For example, the SOX Act, if I'm not mistaken, requires that the CEO and CFO sign off on financial documents. And that happened because, was it Enron? I think it was Enron, but a large organization was basically fudging their numbers, and basically it didn't end well. And it ended up with the government and 2 senators came together and put together the act, and it was passed, and now everybody has to abide by certain rules. Employment law and labor relations, basically the laws and statutes that are in place to create a better employee experience, and then union, this is a broad sweep, but union presence and what that means, and then also from a global perspective, what it means in different parts of the world, because what we do in the United States is not necessarily what others do in different countries. I guess I am going to go through all the courses. Job analysis and design. When you look at a job, what are the approaches, tools, and resources you can use to analyze what the job does and how it connects to the bigger picture, and how you can maybe design a job or improve on a job when business objectives change. Workforce planning and talent management, looking at what is happening externally and maybe internally, and then forecasting what your workforce requirements will be, and how do you develop people to meet the business objectives through the responsibilities that they might have in their role. Performance management and metrics and measurement of human resources, basically creating a performance management plan or system that will encourage behaviors of employees that align with whatever the corporate goals are or the business objectives are. Managing a global and diverse workforce. What happens when your company decides to go outside of its nation, when the U.S. decides to outsource or to expand its operations? What does that look like? Do you use people that are from that country? Do you use people that are from the country of origin that may have roots in the country that you're anticipating going in? What do the laws look like? What happens when cultures are conflicting? and what happens when you try to manage performance and things don't work out. Leading organizational change, which was actually one of my favorite courses. When you have external and internal influences, how do you insert change in a strategic way, and what are the roles that people play in change, and what happens when change is not implemented in a successful way? Training and development, when there are gaps observed in the workplace, how can you create training plans and or create methods of training that will close on those gaps, and how can you evaluate those efforts to ensure that you get the best return on investment, so that way people have the right competencies necessary. Compensation and benefits. This was actually an interesting class. How do you create a compensation plan that encourages the right behaviors, whether that's through core compensation like your salary, and or non-monetary benefits required by the government and discretionary, so like paid time off and the use of like FMLA, things of that nature. What does that plan look like when you put it together? Again, I did not take organizational development from this school, and then the last class, strategies in human resource management. So basically taking everything that you've learned, it's a capstone course, so everything that you've learned from the past courses, and how do you apply it to a specific organization of your choice, and how do you align HR strategy with business strategy? If you know that your organization is a disruptor, how can you leverage human resources, literally, and implement a strategy that aligns with being a disruptor in whatever industry that you are in? So I know that this video is pretty long. Yep, I know that this video is pretty long. Hopefully you have walked away with what my experience was like with this program and with the university. Would I recommend it? If you are a working adult and you need to advance your career by getting a degree in corporate America, or you just want to get the knowledge or the experience, or you just want the credentials, absolutely go for it. I think that it's an investment considering the value of the degree in comparison to what you could be paying. And I'm walking away with a different lens that I didn't have before. So I hope that this video helps you with deciding if this program and the university is a right fit for you. Let me know your thoughts. Have a great day.